Grade 8, good morning, Miss. How are you? I'm Islam Umar, your math teacher in Taqarrub International School. Our lesson today is lesson 5 from chapter 9, which is actually completing the square. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to solve the quadratic equations by completing the square. If you notice, this is the fourth method for solving quadratic equations. We took, graphing, solving quadratic equations by graphing, solving the quadratic equations by finding the square root for some kinds or forms of quadratic equation, and the third method was solving the quadratic equations by factoring. So this is the fourth method, which is actually solving a quadratic equation by completing the square. In this method, actually, we will go back to what we call it, the algebra tiles. Now let's remember together what are algebra tiles. Now this is actually algebra tiles. This represents x squared plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8x. This could be reformed like this by making it a square, and split or divide 8x into 4x horizontally and 4x vertically. I can complete this square by adding, as you can see, by adding, look here, you can notice that we add 8, or 16 small squares, or 16 actually tiles, small tiles, to complete the square. So actually, by this method, we reach a point in which actually depends on the concept of math that tells you m squared equals m. Now, how is that to solve it? It helps you to solve equations that in form of m squared equals m. How we solve this type of equation? By taking the square root for both sides. So if you reach a point in which you have a perfect square, complete square, you can just take the square root of both sides and you will finish. Okay? Or your equations will be solved. We will depend on this idea in math, or this concept in math, to solve quadratic equations by using completing the square method. But there are actual steps you should follow it to solve. I will write it. For example, I want you to know that, one of the steps, or the first step that you should use it, you should reform your equation to be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, which is the standard form for the quadratic equation, should be reformed to be ax squared plus bx equals c. Okay? So you can notice that you will move actually c in the other side, or it will be, to be more specific, it should be negative c. So anyway, I want you to know that in the first step in solving by completing the square method is by reform the equation to make it like ax squared plus bx equals c. So this is the first method, or the first step. In the second step, actually, miss, you will add a term. What you will add, miss? You will add b over 2 squared. This formula, you should memorize it and remember it. Okay? You should add a formula which is actually b over 2 all squared. Add it to both sides. Why? To keep my equation equivalent. If you add the same term to the both sides, the right side and the left side, you will have, will have the same or the equivalent equation. You will keep your equivalent equation as it. Okay? Then after that, we will reach a point in which I have a perfect square equation. Okay? So in the third step, I must have perfect square equation. If you remember, actually, perfect square polynomial, if you remember, we can actually split it or divide it into two identical or same binomials. So we will reach a point in which I have a plus b, okay, squared equals c squared. So I can just, in the fourth step, take the square root of both sides so that I can get rid of the square or the power 2. Okay? To make sure that you understand these steps, I will solve immediately a problem from the book. Okay? I will solve, a problem from the book. Let's, for example, take a problem which is actually from the exercises. It's, I will take actually from the exercises, which is not problem 1. I will take from the exercises for the lesson. It will be, let's take, for example, let's take number 15, which is actually m squared plus 16, m equals negative 59, or let's take number 14. Okay, I will solve actually number 14. In number 14, here, I will write it here then. It's r squared minus 4r equals 30. Okay, miss? Yalla, let's solve it together. First of all, I should make sure, it's written in the form for the equation. I want to solve it in completing the square. Is it written in the form? Yes. Since I have the constant in one side and I have the variable or ax squared plus b in one side, so my equation correct, or it's written in the correct form. Number 2, as you can see, I will add a term which is actually b over 2 squared. What's b here? It's negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2 squared equals 4. So you will add 4. Where? To both sides. Why? To keep it an equivalent equation. To keep my equation equivalent. So it will be r squared minus 4r, okay, plus 4, since it's positive, equals 30 plus 4. Okay, miss? Now, like this, we are actually close to, this is, if you remember, I call it perfect square polynomial. How? I can just factor it, okay, and split r, and here it's negative. So it must be, it's positive here, so I have the same sign, negative, so I have same negative in both, in the both parentheses, and I have here square root of r squared r, square root of 2, it's 2, 4 is 2, sorry miss, it's 2. So here you can notice, and this is 30 plus 4, it's 34. Okay, now here, you can reach a point, since I have the same, you can just rewrite them like this. Equals 34. Since I reach this point in which I have the isolated, here I have, perfect square in both sides, so I can just easily, as you can see, just take the square root for both sides. Take the square root here and take the square root here. It will be here r minus 2 equals square root of 34. Now, what should I do here? Actually, as you can see here, it's a plus minus for sureness. I said to you, if you remember, in finding the square root in this chapter, exactly in this chapter, you should mention that it's a plus minus square root. So, miss, here we have two solutions, right? I will write them here. You have two solutions. R minus 2 equals positive 34. So, R equals 2 plus 34. This is one solution. Okay, or r minus 2 equals negative 34. Square root, of course, of 34. So r equals 2 minus square root of 34. This is another solution. This tells you, if you, as we said, always you have to put in your mind the graph for a parabola here. It has actually two solutions. It means that it intercepts the x-axis in 2 points. One point is 2 plus square root of 34. The other point is 2 minus square root of 34. Miss, the whole lesson depends on this idea. Steps, as we see here, is steps of solving the equation. Now, first, reform it, okay? Then you have to add, add the term, which is actually b over 2 all squared. Then you reach a point in which you have perfect square equation in one side. So all you have to do is take the square root of both sides. This to understand more, you have to practice more. Do the exercises in the book and see you inshallah tomorrow with a new lesson.